There, Reverend Lippert, and then Reverend Stange, and I guess Bob Cook came next, and he's been there over 30 years.
First pastor was Reverend Rath, Reverend Helmut Rath. He came from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I always considered him to be kind of an old man, but he was young because he had a family here. He raised a family. He had 2 girls and a boy, and in his term here, he was very strict, all business. He was well-spoken. He could deliver a good sermon. In fact, I remember he would, once a year, he would give a sermon in German. I think it was probably around Easter time. There was enough German people in the congregation to appreciate it. Like I say, he was very strict. If he had a sense of humor, I never saw it in him. He just didn't show any much emotion. He came in maybe 1927. He was here about 20 years.
Okay.
Like I say, he raised his family here.
Yeah.
The girls were in high school, I think, when he left. He went to Kansas City. And I got to thinking, well, it's not like that anymore. You can have fun and joke around with the pastor without being terrified.
Yes.
But that's what I remember about Reverend Rath. After him came Reverend Lippert. He was here for just a short time. I don't think over 4 years or something like that.
Oh, okay.
He was a little more open. He was more like a local boy. He came from Mascoutah. Was a Lippert from Mascoutah, so he knew the area. Yeah, he was a good guy. Yeah.
Reverend Rath was my pastor. Okay, here's a list of the pastors up until Robert Cook. And Reverend Rath was from 1927 to 1948. And he was the pastor when I went to confirmation school.
I was baptized in 1925. Went to Sunday school. All classes were in the church pews. I was confirmed in 1939 by Reverend Rath. I was the only boy in a class of 4. I got married to Bernice Farry in 1946 by Reverend Rath. Bernice was the only girl in the class of 1938.
I think it was Reverend Rath.
I referred to my son Steve, who went through it, and he said that they have lessened the pressure on the kids. They have changed the confirmation program from a lot of memorization and standing up in front of the congregation to, I think they write down what they believe now.
Confirmation, there were 5 boys, I and 4 other boys. We were the confirmation class. And meet on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock in Reverend Rath's office, which is now Cindy Vogler's office. And we had Bible stories, catechism. The Bible stories we usually had to read and then give a report on what we thought they were. And he would go through them with us, and he'd help us get the meaning out of the Bible stories. Catechism, if I remember, it was a lot of memorizing. We had to memorize a lot of things in the catechism book because you always were trying to get ready for presentation Sunday, the Sunday before Easter, when the confirmation class would attend church, sit down in front, and Reverend Rath would ask you a bunch of questions which you didn't know were coming. He did give you the questions that he might ask you, but you didn't know who was going to get called. So it was a little terrifying, and we had to memorize 10 Commandments, all the long version of all of them. And then, like I say, he'd pick out questions, but we all got through it all right, and eventually we were confirmed, and we're now members of the church.
It was great. There were only 9 girls and boys in my class, but it was a good experience. And we only went 1 year then. Now I think it's 2, but 1 year. So it was a lot to do with our schoolwork, but it turned out to be great.
I liked it. I remember that, but we had to ride our bicycles into North all the time. That was over 5 miles. So I didn't like that part of it, but I liked it. But we didn't know too much about church before I started getting I'm not sure. We were in the teens, I know that. 10 or 12, something like that.
Okay.
No, 13 would be the first teen.
13, yeah.
We were something like that, yes. Yeah. Every Saturday morning.
Well, it was nice, and I think there was, I can't remember for sure, I think there was about 10 or somewhere in that area. I'd have to look for the picture to know for sure. It was about average.
Okay.
I don't remember what year I was confirmed, but we had a pretty big class.
Good.
There was 3 of us cousins were confirmed the same year.
Wow.
There was me and Winfred Reinhard and Walter Jr. Reinhard. That was the 3 cousins that were confirmed the same year.
Well, I was the only boy in a class of 4.
Yeah.
And my first wife was the only girl in a class of about 15, I guess. She was the only girl.
Wow.
A year sooner, in 38.
Was it, did you make statements of faith at church in your
Oh, yes,
confirmation?
we had to know the whole catechism and everything.
Very good.
I had to answer about 20 questions myself.
Oh, it was wonderful. Bernice Hooper was one of my ones, and she was always a protector for me because there were some boys in there.
Oh.
They used to take my bag where I kept my Bible in, just threw it up on the fixture one time when I went to confirmation school. That was Bernice Hooper. Right in the church. at
Right in
St.
the
John's.
church? So they threw your Bible on top of the light in the
Yeah,
church?
on the light fixture.
Ay, ay, ay.
My Bible, and where I had a kind of a bag, homemade bag. They threw that up. My Bible was in there. And then Bernice Hooper, she got tough with that one kid. She said, "You crawl up there and get that off of there." I never will forget that.
Who was the pastor that taught confirmation with you?
Reverend Rath.
Reverend Rath. Was he tough?
No, he was not too bad.
Oh, good.
Well, I started going to St. John when I married George Worth in 1950, and I was pleased to find out that it was very much like the Presbyterian church I left in Springfield. So I felt very much at home at United Church of Christ here in New Athens. And I've met a lot of wonderful people who are still friends today and come to see me here at the New Athens nursing home, which I like very much being here. I recommend it to anybody who needs help. Pastor Bob comes here and gives an occasional sermon and visits people, and I like that. And Bob has been wonderful. But I understand that church's attire is a lot more casual than it used to be. We used to dress up for church, and I understand blue jeans are okay. Well, I remember, I think it was Katharine Hepburn who started wearing pants in her lifetime, and it really caught on with women wearing slacks. And, well, now blue jeans are everywhere.
I'd say formality. Being formal. Years ago when I was a boy, the men wore suits and ties, hats to church. All the ladies usually wore dresses and hats. Now today it's more casual, which is fine. More whatever comfortable for you, you wear. Nobody objects to your dress. Little kids were usually meant to be seen and not heard. You didn't create any kind of a disturbance in church. In fact, there weren't that many little ones that attended church. If there was a disruptive, that was the talk of the town. Some little kid disrupted the service. But that's not true today with Bob being there. He likes all the little kids and likes when they cry when he's preaching. But say years ago, up until when Bob got here, I think it bothered a lot of the preachers to be disturbed when they were preaching. Well, they always had a nursery, and the kids were supposed to be. They weren't supposed to be in church. Like I say, until Bob come. there weren't many kids, little kids, in church. Now it's much better. Sunday school, that was a bore when I went. It was a bore going to Sunday school. And now today, when you see the kids coming out of Sunday school, they're all full of energy and pep, and it seems like they're having a good time and having fun in Sunday school, which is great. You gotta give Cindy and Dave Vogler credit for making the Sunday school what it is. That's
Did you have 3 services back then with the Reverend Graff? or-
we started 2 services, and when Reverend Bowers came, we had an 8 o'clock service, and then 10:30. Before that, it was just one service, 10:10. Sunday school, 9 o'clock. And when you're done with Sunday school, then there's 10 minutes in between the church service and.
And which service do you go to?
We varied. My wife and I, when I was working, we went to the 8 o'clock service all the time, and since I retired, I went to the 10:30 service until we got to be just a bunch of old people in there and not enough of us, so we're going to the 9:15 service now, which is good. There's like before, there wasn't any participation from the congregation. Everybody sat there and listened to the sermon. Now with Bob there, the congregation chimes in whenever they want to and gives them some thoughts, which is good.
What changed in St. John's over my lifetime? Well, the church has grown a lot since then, and that's great. And we are so fortunate to have Pastor Bob. Oh, he's wonderful. What hasn't changed? Well, the congregation is pretty close-knit with one another.
Oh, we've had a lot of building programs. It's made our church more involved, you know. And we work at the church a little bit. I was president, I don't know how many years. We put in a tile floor at that time.
Been there.
Well, they added on some to the church, and they changed since when I was little. We just had one service. Now they did have 3 services, but right now they just got 2. I don't know if they'll ever go back to the 3 services or not.
But like I was saying, I remember the coal furnace, the stoker. Remember the Sunday school, all upstairs in the church. And as we got older, we moved further back. And as we got older, I think they went out the back door and never came back.
Oh, I don't know. I just, we've got a very popular church. It's gotten bigger, and I think the contemporary service is good for our young people.
I like it.
Yeah, I think that really helps our young people.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's a great church.
You left 40 years of quilting, didn't you?
Pardon?
You left 40 years of quilting.
Yes, I when I could see good and hear, I loved quilting, and I loved the guild.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
all the dinners we had. I loved to bake the pie, and mashed potatoes was my place.
We got 3 services. which we never did have. And we got 8 o'clock, 9:30, and 10:30. Now I always went to the 10:30 service, and I went for 25 years straight every Sunday. I was so happy that I could do that, but my parents always went to church too. But then in later years, I went on my own, after I could drive. And I was married in 1961, and Reverend Stagney before my ceremony.
Well, as I recall, we had 2 Christmas trees, and all fully lighted. And I think it's been simplified since then. But then I've been here in the home a year and a half now, so I'm not certain what the programs are for Christmas now. Always went to Christmas Eve service. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Okay, Christmas. I can't remember any services on Christmas Day or Christmas night. New Year's Eve night, like a late. I can't. The only service I can remember on Christmas Eve was the one that the Sunday school department put on. It was a program, usually at 7:30. All the kids in Sunday school took part, had recitations, sang songs. Sometimes they'd put on a Christmas skit, but most of the time it was you had a recitation to recite, and you had to memorize that. That was more memorized. You had to memorize your catechism, and then every Christmas you had to memorize your speech that you had, and you get up in front of everybody on the altar. The service was in the church sanctuary. Everybody got up and said their little recitation, and the men of the church, sometime a week or so before Christmas, would go out and cut down some kind of an enormous evergreen tree that they'd bring in and set it up in front of the church down on the south side, about where the organ console is now, where the organist sits, and it would touch the ceiling. Well, the ceiling was tapered down, but it was that big, and they decorated it with some big colored lights and a lot of tinsel. I don't know if people remember what tinsel is or not, but they used to have a lot of tinsel, not many ornaments. But everybody looked forward to the big Christmas tree in there.
Well, Christmas, we always had our Sunday school program on Christmas Eve. And usually pretty cold weather, and we did not have a car, and we had to walk to church. and it was usually pretty cold. The winters were colder then than they are now. Was at 7 o'clock.
Okay. That's
Uh-huh.
good. At least it wasn't.
Yes, on account of it involved the whole complete Sunday school. And that was from the little tots up until, we even
Confirmation.
had children in high school.
Well, when I was a little girl, we didn't have too much. We didn't have too many presents, and a lot of the stuff was like fruit or, things like that. And it's quite different than it is right now. They get so many, the little grandkids get so many presents. Oh my, it's unbelievable. Usually Christmas Eve for the 11 o'clock service. We did that when my husband was living. We always went, and now my youngest daughter goes with me to the 11 o'clock service. I like that service.
They sang, we'd have it at midnight,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'd have, they'd sing things in German.
Oh.
And Roy sat aside of me. I was one time too. I could tell. I couldn't believe that he could sing it in German.
Mm.
And I never will forget that.
Well, they had midnight service, huh?
Yeah, midnight services.
Wow.
So had it at midnight.
Did they do candle lighting part of it?
Yes. And then right before you went, the candles on, but they put them out before you walked out of the church. Because everybody holds a candle.
Yeah.
It was dangerous though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Roy sat aside of me. He always said, I told him, I said, like how you could laughing with somebody in the back seat. I said, Roy, be careful with that candle. Yeah, that was kind of dangerous, but that's the way they had it. They had lit candles when you sang the song. Then they sang it once in a while in German. And Roy, he would be humming away, and I thought, gee, you can know German? But he did, that's the way he was. He tried to learn all that stuff. When my two little boys was, your little guys, we always sat in the front pew with my husband and myself, and they would sit between us, and they had to behave. See, they always wanted to stand up. I said, nope, you don't stand up in church. And we sat in the front pew. I missed that.
Yeah.
I used to like to go to church there.
It wasn't anything like now.
Oh,
They had Christmas trees and sang a lot of Christmas carols. And
We had midnight service at 11 o'clock, and that's what I went to. And they had an early service too at 7.
Yeah.
But I went to the midnight all the time. Yeah. And we had candlelights. We sang Silent Night, Holy Night. The last verse we always sang in German.
Oh, my favorite hymns? Well, I got 2 of them. On Easter Sunday, you gotta sing Christ Arose. And the other Sunday, the other hymn is, I gotta do this for Bob, Who is on the Lord's Side?
Favorite hymns? Well, Jesus Loves Me.
Yes,
That was the first one that I remember.
In the garden. Was that the name of one of them?
In the Garden, that's my favorite. I always request that. I go to this here, St. Matthew's has this where they have 10 pianos playing in the organ, and then in the middle of their performances, they have this one piano player and a cello player. They take requests for songs, and I always request in the garden, so they play it for me.
Jesus, I Have Promised. That's a favorite of mine. Amazing Grace. My God and I love that one. And Let There Be Peace on Earth. There, Grandpa, it's yours.
And I have in the garden, Here I Am, Lord, and How Great Thou Art. And I hope they sing that at my funeral.
Oh.
How great Thou art. I hope they sing that when they carry me out of church.
I would say a little town of Bethlehem for Christmas, and Silent Night, Holy Night, and then my other let's see, buttons. Just a closer walk with thee.
Okay.
Just the changes of the church itself, where it started out as the original church building sanctuary set up on the hill there. And as the years went on, they added additions and made improvements to it, all to help it to minister to the people. The first addition was on the back of the sanctuary. It's supposed to have been a Sunday school room in the office for Reverend Rath, which it did for a few years. It eventually changed to a choir room and a music room, and now it's the secretary's office and Cindy Vogler's office. And then in about 1958, the Sunday school needed more space, so they put what they called the educational building on for Sunday school, and they had a stage there. They did programs on that. Didn't need it, and it now evolved into the New Beginnings and the daycare center. So over a period of years, you adjust your building to what kind of needs there are. And you think back when they built the church in 1906, I'm guessing. You had, get from the street, you had some concrete steps to get up to the sidewalk. Then you had some more concrete steps to get up to the church grade level. Then you had more concrete steps to crawl up to get into the sanctuary, the old original entrance. People did it. But now, over a period of years, we've improved that. We've got ramps to walk up. We've got automatic doors. We've got handicapped accessible restrooms. We've got an elevator. All of that to make it easier to get the congregation into the church, which is good.
Yeah, it is good.
And I don't know what else is going to come. There's going to have to be some more changes in the next X years. I won't be here to see them. But like I say, everything they did around the church was to make it easier to minister to the people, I think.
I was on the church council 3 times. In the 1950s, that church was redecorated, and Mr. Reverend Libbard was the pastor. We painted the church that year, installed new lights, still in the church. Earl Becker from Highway Lumber drew a picture of the lights, and we brought them. We also got a new coal furnace and stoker from Huber Sheet Metal in New Edens. We hired my father-in-law, Henry Farry, to fire the furnace and clean the church. Bernice passed away in 1974. In 1976, a new educational building was built. I got married to Alice Parker in 76, and as the church was under construction, Reverend Bowers married us in Hacker, Illinois. Alice became a member in 1976 and was well accepted. In the 1980s, the church needed new soffits on the east side of the house, on the east side next to the steeple. Jim Harris said, we can save the church a lot of money if I bend and make the soffits at the foundry at work. Jim Harris, Butch Huffman, Laverne Kinsler, and I went up on the roof and installed the soffits. Reverend Bauer said we were all crazy, and he stood on the street and prayed for us as we worked. Later in the year, Reverend Chuck Lorenas started a recycling project. Whip Wilson smashed cans every Saturday, and I hauled them away. Also in the 80s, I helped move Bob Koch from the St. Joe, Brooksville area to New Athens. I told Alice we now have a minister who likes to sing and play music, as we moved a lot of records and tapes. Also in the 80s, the kitchen committee, Willa Woods and I drove all over St. Louis to buy used kitchen appliances. I got my brother Don to help me make a hole in the west side for the exhaust fans. It took about 2 days. Ethel Bittner helped design the kitchen. And I was the first to try the new kitchen deep fryers. I also was on committee with Will Woods to get the new elevator. Never dreamed that Will and I would be using the elevator at 8 o'clock services. The good Lord blessed me with 2 good wives, 6 children, 15 grandchildren, and 26 great-grandchildren. I'm a member, and I hope to come to church the rest of my life until he carry me out in a box.
I started to Sunday school when I was 5 years old, and I've been with St. John ever since, and I'm 91 now.
That's really great.
So I have deep roots in St. John because my great-grandmother went to church there, and my maternal line all after that.
Well, the Sunday school changed the most, like I say, from sitting in the church in the pews, and then you just moved back as you got older.
Yeah.
Now Cindy Bowler just wonderful with her Sunday school.
I don't know what more we can say. It's wonderful.
That's good.
Like I say, I enjoy having Bob come here. He has a sermon every now and then he gives us communion, which is very, very nice.
Well, you just have to learn to take care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing is. You always got to pray all the time.
Yeah.
And have a prayer. You wake up and you just thank God in your mind all the time.
Yeah.
That's what makes you live longer. Because when I get up in the morning, I walk through and I thank Jesus and I thank God for being alive.
Mm-hmm.